So Larry is on the road again, and always so many things remind me of songs, Larry. But my partner and I, we used to crisscross the country, going out and selling tire liners and water bottles to our customers, and every morning when we first got in the car, we would get into a chorus of "On the Road Again." So, so
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I spent, years and years and years where my address was C2B.
yes, easy to be.
Years. I mean, I was traveling across the country. I racked up, so many so many miles in the airlines. And then when I finally exited my last big venture, which was in end of 2022, I vowed never again. And I have traveled a little bit by air. I did a flight to Austin just to I guess last month. No, uh, I'm lost. Maybe November, December of last year, just for a 1 day trip, a 2 day trip. But for the most part, I've done it all by road. And, just we're on our way back from Florida to North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, it's so flexible and so pleasurable. I enjoy it. I'm not sure my wife enjoys it much, but I must say with FSD, I and I know I've said it again and again on this channel, but today just amazed me with the human-like driving. I mean, making space on a intersection where it judged that it could get across the intersection, but it wouldn't leave enough space, made the space. I just
Wow.
subtleties that you would not expect from an automated driving system. Now, there remains a few issues to be resolved, and I'm driving version 13.2.2, so it's not the latest 2.5.
Right. Hmm.
But I think the biggest issues remain the parking lots. Getting that last 100 yards perfect. It's not bad. It's pretty surprising, but it's not perfect.
Right. Right.
And other than that, it's just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. Just the intelligence of it. It's like, wow, did it really think of that itself? And then after a while, you stop questioning it because
Right.
it keeps doing all these really subtle but really intelligent moves. I mean, just amazing. And then from time to time, I say, oh, why is it doing that? Oh, I see why it's doing that. It's kind of more alert than I am. So it's very impressive, very impressive.
Well, something that wasn't impressive. Well, it was impressive, all right. We had an impressive day in the market today. Very impressive. NVIDIA dropping $610 billion in a single day in market cap, which is by far the largest market cap drop ever of any stock, including Tesla. I mean, I'm surprised that, Tesla didn't have the record since it's so volatile so often. But I have to admit this is a little over my pay grade. I spent a lot of time this morning trying to understand what DeepSeek had done or not done, or whether anybody really knew whether it was this significant or not. But the market has decided that they are going to, they're going to take their pound of flesh now and decide later, I guess, whether or not it's as significant as it appears to be. So you have done your own research. I'm sure you have way more knowledge in this area of the computer than I do. So what's your conclusion? Is this overblown? Is this about blown, right? Or is this still requiring some more correction?
Well, I'm going to talk about the foundational issue
Okay.
first, and then we'll draw our conclusions. The foundational issue is that all this excitement about AGI is appropriate but misguided in terms of directionality. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, when Transformers were first proposed and first explored, the theory of them was really understood or proposed and gave a level of excitement, and that is to say, people understood that this could be a very great breakthrough.
It could be
It wouldn't work because
right?
it could be transformative, but the problem was that it was seen to be so demanding of compute capacity that we couldn't imagine we could get to that level of compute capacity.
Okay.
Now, on the other side of the coin, so this transformer uses, a very statistical method of resolving logic, and that is probabilistic. In other words, it deals with probabilities using a technique. The general technique is called gradient descent. It doesn't matter how it works and what it does, but it works on probabilities, and it tries to resolve the highest level of probability for a particular question, and it could work on very limited scale. But as soon as that question sort of exploded out in terms of data, there was just nothing remotely powerful enough to resolve the probabilities to the level of granularity that would give a sensible answer.
Got it.
On the other side of the coin was this very accurate method of computing, exactness in terms of looking up data, looking up answers, storing answers, and also connecting logic, connecting concepts of logic by absolutely connecting, this word means that, and that word means that, and that calculation results in that, and connecting historical or factual facts one to the other, so that you could follow a set of logic to a logical conclusion, and all the facts in the world could be connected to each other, so that you could ask a question, and by going through all the logic and all the knowledge that the world has, you get to the exact answer. Right. And that's called deterministic. That doesn't depend upon probability. That doesn't depend upon some sort of, calculation of probabilities that kind of resolve into an answer. This is a direct connection, and this takes all the facts in the encyclopedias of all of knowledge that we have in the world that's connected to each other, and you can ask a question, and going through all these connections can give you the answer. And that didn't work either, because we just didn't have enough compute power in the world to connect everything one to the other. And even if we did have the compute power, the concepts of how to do that were really very beyond our means.
Right.
Now, compute power, obeying Moore's law, keeps leaping bound by bound by bound by bound, so that over time it becomes so powerful that the problems that we had in making these transformers work, these probabilistic systems work, suddenly resolved. And we had this, AGI, not the AGI, sorry, we had this ChatGPT moment. Suddenly, and there were some breakthroughs before the ChatGPT moment. I don't have to go through it historically, but there were some breakthroughs that led ultimately to this ChatGPT moment, where we could ask the computer a question and it would give us back an answer which had a very high probability of being right. Maybe an 80% probability, and then a 90%, then a 95% probability of being right. The problem was it takes enormous compute power to build the logic base necessary for this, or the actual logic, the actual the values, the probabilistic values that the computer could use to give you an answer. They call it tokens. Tokens are representative of part of a word or a whole word or a group of words, and those connections and how they connect to each other, and those connections give you the answer. So transformers suddenly, from being improbable probabilistic machines, became probable probabilistic machines. The problem remains that it requires gigantic compute. And I've been arguing with colleagues and friends that it's possible to do it, so that's exciting and amazing, but we can't turn all the energy in the world into this process. We need it's just too much. And the hope is that the amount of energy required to give it will diminish.
Right.
The other thing I would argue, and have argued, is that this other side of the coin, these so-called expert systems that do all these connections of fact one to the other, we haven't been exploring the opportunity with all the power that we have available to us today, to see if those systems can work better. Just the same way as the transformers have become powerful enough to work in these probabilistic worlds, these deterministic systems, these accurate systems that connect these facts one to the other, and that can create these gigantic, that using a gigantic database can give us equally accurate answers, but using far less compute power. Why? Because they don't have to do this, gigantic, build up of this training, and then give us an answer. Now,
it doesn't have to think, is how maybe it doesn't have to
yeah,
think.
the connections are, it's just getting data from a database, functionally. Now, the getting data from a database doesn't resolve, hasn't been very successful, because nobody's explored that, and sort of, when I say nobody, for the most part, the world hasn't explored that very thoroughly and looked into the possibilities of how expert systems, using today's technology and some techniques that we've evolved over time, to improve that particular side of the coin. But if they did, it would change the world. What's interesting is that DeepThink has kind of taken it's kind of taken the probabilistic solution, and it's kind of broken that into smaller, more expert type systems of the more deterministic side.
Right.
Not exactly, but I kind of liken it to that, because it gives the same kind of capability. And so they've made this big breakthrough. And so this is a very important moment. Somebody called it online today a Sputnik moment.
Yeah.
And it could well be a Sputnik moment. I think it's only the beginning.
Okay.
I think we're going to see, and I've argued with colleagues very vociferously, they've put me down, they don't think I'm right, and I may not be right, but I think that we are going to see real breakthroughs, serious breakthroughs on the expert system side. And if we do, I predict a dramatic collapse of compute requirements, a dramatic collapse of compute requirements and database requirements.
Wow.
Compared to these probabilistic systems. And here's the kicker. These systems will be a darn side more accurate.
Okay. Yeah.
They're very precise. They point fact to fact to fact. They connect fact to fact to fact to fact, rather than probability to probability to probability.
Right. Okay, so are you imagining, Larry, something that would be a kind of hybrid that would still use transformers, but would use?
I think so, because there's some things that transformers do incredibly well that a deterministic system would not do well, and vice versa. And the problem is we have become so transfixed with transformers that we've ignored the value of deterministic systems. And you can't become transfixed on either. I think the brain doesn't work that way, and I don't think the best computer systems are going to end up working that way. So, in a way, deep think has used some. They've used some expertise, and they've divided those probabilistic systems into smaller chunks. But they're still probabilistic.
Right.
I think that we have to go to the next level, and I predict that. This is what I predict. We are only at the very early stages of the game.
All right, now let me ask you this question, because this is what Brian, every time I ask Brian Wang this, he always says the same thing. So I keep saying to Brian, it's like, okay, I know some of these issues are huge. Some of the issues that we're talking about that we'd like to solve, like health issues or brain issues or cloud issues, some of the things that have such complexity that his statement would be there's almost an unlimited amount of compute that it will take, that it's just the more the better forever. So if this
but I think Brian, I don't think Brian is wrong, but I think he may not be thinking about this in the same way I'm thinking about it. And I don't think the answer is just to throw unlimited compute at it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in this situation before. I've seen these, these attempts to throw gigantic amounts of compute to get to a solution. And invariably, I find that there are better ways to get to the solution, rather than this gigantic throwing unlimited power, or so invariably the right solution is not using the maximum amount of compute. It is improving the technique.
So let's try to bring it down to, you said this is not how the brain works, okay? And so let's just because I'm really stupid about this stuff. If I want the answer to 2 + 2, I barely have to think. Because I'm really, really good at arithmetic, even if it's 7 × 15, I don't have to think for more than a second. But if I want to know
but stop right there.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Stop right there. If you have to do 2 × 2, you have the exact answer.
Right.
The precise answer.
Right.
It's not about 2, it's not between 1.8 and 2.2. You know that it is exactly and precisely, not less or more, exactly 2.
Well, wait a minute.
4. 2
4,
+ 3,
yes.
4. So think about a system that takes a number that's very large and multiplies by another number that's very large. And I can do, when I was a youngster, I could do very large sums mentally. I could, go down a row of figures. I go down a row of 4-column figures, and I could add them up and come up with a very exact answer. But other people can look at a very large row of numbers and come up with, it's going to be about $3,480,000. And so they're two very different processes. The one process is a very precise, very accurate number, and you may remember it by rote, and that's one method. That is to have it in memory,
right,
and be able to extract it from memory. And the other is to know the exact way to do it the precise, accurate way to do it. And there are two different methods, and you have the means to select either method.
So you're always going back and forth between those methods depending on what it is that you're looking for.
You're either extracting it from memory or you're doing it by the formula that you remember very well.
Right. Or
the exact formula that you remember very well that returns the exact answer.
And then at some point, I might get beyond my knowledge. I might get
let me finish the.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But when you get this big column of numbers that may be 4, 6, or 8, or even 10 digits long, and an expert or somebody well trained can actually run their eye down it and come up with plus or minus 10% that number, the total number. Oh, this is going to be about $49,380,000, just about $50 million.
Right.
That method is really what computers are doing today. What we call AI is doing today.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And the similar, so the the image is not quite right because actually with numbers it's going to be able to do the actual calculation.
Of course.
When it's faced with the problem, it's going to look at the problem and say, well, this is what this is the estimate of what the answer is.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And by the way, I can point to the sources I used because I can actually link to those sources,
sure.
which is an evolution of the method. Now, what we see is there is a precise solution that follows an exact process.
Mm-hmm.
There's a solution that pulls from memory the sort of estimation methodology, and then there is the sort of general probability estimation. So there are all these methods, and right now, the one thing we're not using is these exact, precise methods that pinpoint a fact, that connect to another fact, that connect to another fact, that looks at the looks at the formula, the exact formula, and come up with the exact answer.
So let me see if I can, bring it down to if I'm sitting in front of my computer and I'm on a system, we'll call it Larry's system. That would be a good name for it. So we got the Larry approach, and I type in who is the president of the United States right now, and theoretically a Larry system might go, that's super simple. I don't need to go in over here. I can go over here and go to, exact source material that will tell me the exact answer. But then the next question I might ask is, give me a chart of all the presidents of the United States that have been in office so far and how long they were in office. And it might say, well, that's a much more complicated issue. I need to go over here to get that. Is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going.
Okay.
I mean, this gets a little complicated, and I'm not sure that it's that easy to expound. I mean, I don't have the genius to expound this in very simple terms. I guess I may have in earlier life, but the general answer is that the methods we are using right now for AI are statistical, are probabilistic. They are probably correct, and they're 90% correct, 92%, 93%, but they're not 100% correct. And from time to time, the computer guesses wildly wrong.
Right.
A deterministic system will not give you a probability. It'll give you an exact value. It'll give you the exact answer, or it'll give you no answer at all. A probabilistic solution will give you, well, this is the answer I think is the right answer, and it will be correct. It used to be 80% of the time, now it's 95% of the time, but it's not 100% of the time.
Now, my reading, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And the compute power needed for the probabilistic solution is gigantic to
Right.
build the connections that you need to create these probabilistic solutions. Not so much when you ask it the question, but when you actually train, what we call train it. And it takes an enormous amount of work to make sure that the training is accurate and is got right.
Right.
A deterministic solution, takes huge amounts of connections. And there are many methods you could use to reduce the cost and I think we haven't explored all the possible solutions to that. But once the actual answers will always be the same over and over again. With the probabilistic solution, you may get different answers each time you run it.
So my reading this morning, trying to understand as best I could, was that one of the things that the DeepSeek guys did was that they broke this down into different expert categories so that you didn't have to be looking into the entire universe of words and content. You want to know, how long does that rocket take to get to Mars? It only goes into the rocketry expertise area. So it doesn't have to do as much searching. Theoretically, would be less expensive to get there.
Yeah, and you don't have to train the whole thing all at once. You can train portions of it. I imagine. I mean, I don't know that this is true. I haven't read the white papers. I haven't downloaded the code. I've been quite busy in the last couple of weeks, as you may know. So just the theory of it sounds pretty good. It sounds like it could be a vast improvement. It sounds like it is a vast improvement, but we haven't really explored where it can all go wrong and what could be, the problems. But they've been, they've definitely put a bit of a spanner in the works for the likes of, OpenAI.
Yeah.
And for that matter, into Grok as well. We don't know where Grok is along this continuum of work and to what degree they have evolved. And the other thing is, it certainly doesn't impact the embodied AI issues, or it may impact some of the embodied AI stuff, but we don't know to what extent it does. So, but it's really impressive.
Yeah, and some of the things I was hearing today was that the information that has been provided by these guys by going open source and by telling us basically how they did it shouldn't be that hard to reverse engineer. So people like OpenAI or Grok,
you don't have to reverse engineer. You don't have to reverse.
It's already engineered. It's there, huh?
It's engineered. They've given us the source code.
Okay, yeah, okay. So you can.
So we could literally take that code,
right,
just load it up, and create our own database from it and do our own training with it.
I see. All right. So for the downstream folks from NVIDIA, the folks that are creating the large language models and whatnot, they're not as much at risk unless they've overspent for compute, but that is not going to be a problem long term. So I did notice some of the stocks had recovered by the end of the day and we're in the green. Some of the Magnificent Seven were doing fine today.
Yeah, it's hard for me to think about the future. I mean, if you think about the amount of compute already installed, you have to think that whatever these evolutions are, they can only be enhanced by more compute.
Right.
Now, from NVIDIA's point of view, and the reason that NVIDIA took the hit is, given the reduction in horsepower that this new approach, that this technique indicates we could do, it's quite possible that, okay, we've spent $100 billion. Maybe we don't have to spend another penny for another 5 years or something. So NVIDIA could well be faced with, this problem. One of the things that I keep talking about is you. There's no way we can continue spending at this rate for training and for the energy required, and make this thing efficient, make this thing economic.
Right.
So I think this actually breaks open the economics of AI and takes us much further down the road. But I do believe that there are some very big breakthroughs that we are still going to see,
Right.
huge breakthroughs. And I think that people need to explore those breakthroughs. I'm involved in some efforts to do that, with some very intelligent folks who are, really opening my eyes to some of the possibilities. But there are going to be many efforts like this, and I think some will be huge breakthroughs, others may not do it. But we're not at the year 2000 yet. We're still at the year 1998 when the internet is just being born. That's where I think we are.
Okay.
And other people are making different suppositions because they're very excited by what they've seen so far. But I don't think what we've seen so far is yet. I don't think it is the. I don't think it is where so many people think it is.
Right. Right. Right.
Now, embodied AI is a whole different ballgame.
Right.
So one of the really interesting issues is whether some of these techniques can be employed in some of the embodied AI work that's being done. So this may raise some possibilities in the Tesla world, with FSD and with Optimus.
Right.
It's possible. So these are interesting moments as well, and that's where we are.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's so in other words, if some of those same fractioning off or splitting up of the intelligence, if you will, the data behind the intelligence, if some of that is able to be split up in a FSD world, it could make the ability to improve FSD either faster or not require as much compute.
It's very funny because FSD had this gigantic improvement by becoming end-to-end,
Right.
single,
Right.
But I believe there are multiple transformers within that world. I don't think there's a single transformer. In a way, I think that they've achieved a similar kind of goal. But it's interesting, I think everybody is informing everybody else, and I think it's growing apace. I will say that the improvements in FSD have been incredible just in the last year. This last year, 2024, from I guess May or so, when the first release of 12.x came out. From that moment, the improvement, the first time we've seen real great leaps in capability ever since FSD was first released.
So you and I live in a world where we get Christmas usually a couple of times a year when Tesla has events or reveals, and then we get birthdays about 4 times a year at these earnings calls where we're waiting to unwrap whatever the gifts are that are going to be, whether it's going to be coal or whether it's going to be something amazing. Well, everybody's, I think, probably pretty pumped about the one coming up in 2 days, which is the same day as Microsoft and one of the other magnificent Meta, I think, is also on Wednesday. The Fed has their decision on Wednesday, whether to reduce the rates or not. And then on Thursday,
they're going to reduce the rate.
Well, they might. And then on Thursday, you've got Apple. And then the PCE on Friday. I mean, what could go wrong in that 3-day stretch when we're already starting the week with this crazy beginning? And by the way, the Dow was way up today. even though the NASDAQ was crashing.
Well, it's the so-called rotation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially for right now. If you're getting out of NVIDIA, where do you put your money? Yeah. All right. So what are you hoping for Thursday, Larry? What do you want? What do you want for
You
your
know, this is going to be one of the most exciting years in Tesla's history.
no kidding.
You know, we're seeing the launch of the new Model 3 in 3 countries simultaneously, in three continents
I'm sorry,
simultaneously.
Model Y, yeah.
I mean the Model Y. Yeah, sorry. We're seeing the launch in 3 continents simultaneously,
And all 4 factories.
and that's in all 4 factories. And that's something I never thought we'd see. I thought, you know, I mean, Tesla has not been able to do it. And I lost a bet for a case of champagne to Tesla Mama as a result of that. So I'm very pleased to lose that bet. That was the best bet I've ever lost. So that's very exciting. And that in itself really merits some, you know, huge kudos. But that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I think we are going to be shocked, truly shocked, by the Cybercab release later this year, and also by the lower cost, whether call it Model 2 or whatever we want to call it. And so we're going to see all of this being launched, and, you know, all in this year now, whether it's this calendar year or whether it leaks over early next, I don't know.
Right.
But my God, what an exciting lineup. I mean, it's incredible. And, you know, what I'm hearing about the potential production rate of the Cybercab, I mean, this could be something quite staggering. I think the other thing is, I think we're going to see, you know, Palo Alto or Miami roll out, you know, robotaxi service, even if supervised, for the balance of the year, sometime early in mid-year, or early in like the third quarter. And that, you know, that's going to be pretty darn exciting in itself. So, wow, what a year we face. And then, you know, some sort of reveal about what is really happening with Optimus in the factories, because we're all guessing. I'm being a little bit more conservative, other people. So what a year, you know, what a year we're in the midst of.
Yeah, so I'll ask you this question, even though I am the program won't be out until tonight, where I asked Brian White this same question. And Brian White is the one who's always supposed to know this, and he has not a clue. Where is Shanghai going to make the Model Q and the Robotech Cybercabs? They are jammed up. Their sales of the Model Y refresh, the Juniper, are 130,000 in 16 days. So they're not going to be able to make it on the Model Y line. And the Model 3 is selling great.
Well, why not export them from the United States?
They'll export them from the United States into
Why
China.
not?
Into China.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I suppose it's possible.
You know, time will tell, but, you know, they exported the Model S and the Model X to China for a long time.
Right.
Longest time. And they were quite successful. So that's possible, or even out of Berlin.
Right.
And the other theory I've heard is that the factory that is supposedly the Mega Pack factory may also be an auto line. Who knows?
Yeah. Now I would speculate that could be where the Cybercab is going to be made, because it's not as high, not as tall a building, etc. And there's way too much space for what they're claiming.
What about replacing the Model 3, you know, in the China line with the Model Q?
It's possible. Then you can make more. Well, but they're not making Model 3s in Berlin. I guess they can start making Model 3s in Berlin.
Why? Yeah, maybe they just export the Model 3 from. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's an interesting conundrum, and we we'll see what the answer is. Somebody more intelligent, more knowledgeable than I am will come up with a solution.
There's nobody more intelligent than you, Larry, but knowledgeable. I understand. Okay, so so what else?
I'm not an auto manufacturer. I mean, my guesses have been as bad as the other guesses.
So what, Larry, what the very number one thing that you want to either know or that you'd like to hear come out of Elon's mouth on Wednesday?
You know, I'm not one to ask these questions that Elon is not going to answer. I get very impatient with them. I just want to hear Elon give us a perspective on how he sees the year playing out. You know, he's not going to give us any product information. He's not going to give us, but he's going to tell us what he thinks will happen over the course of the year. It would be really, really good if he gave us a set of launch dates or some sort of dates to look forward to. You know, last year he did give us some dates that we could look forward to, and dates would be very nice. You know, is there a launch date for Robotaxi? Is there a launch date for Model Q or whatever you call it? So last year, this time, he gave us a launch date. I mean, they gave us a production date for Cybertruck that they kept more or less.
Right.
They gave us a launch date for the Model Y refresh.
Right.
I think in the third quarter, in the second quarter last year. So I'd like to get not product information, but some sort of calendar information. That would be nice. But the main thing is I want to hear his outlook. I want to hear him being on top of his game. I want to hear him being exuberant and optimistic. And I want to hear him give us the lay of the land for the, you know, we were told last year that was a bridge between the old and the new. It was a transformation year. Now let's hear him typify what this year is going to be. And I hope it's a year of fantastic releases, you know, launch of all these new products. And you know, we're going to go into production and, you know, all the rest of it. And I'm hearing people say, oh, they're only going to make 2.05 million cars this year and so on. I want to hear him give us a better, you know, perspective. And they may miss by a couple of percent, 1 or 2%, but that's fine by me, you know.
Yeah, as I posted the other day to Larry, after Larry was pointing to some of these low numbers by Troy Teslike, I said, you know, Larry, one thing I can tell you for sure, I don't know what else Elon gets right or wrong. His accuracy with regard to predicting the production numbers has been sterling. It's like,
yeah,
it's completely right on. So
no, I agree with that. I agree with that. So yeah, I want to hear him give us, typify what the year is going to be. That's what I want to hear more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for maybe a little bit of knowledge on regulations, not just US regulations on autonomy, which he may or may not be able to say anything, but China, the UN, Europe, all.
Well, UN, we kind of can get that information. We've got some really good information. So the folks at Mr. Green keep us kind of abreast of that. And so that, you know, we get that information. And that's public information. So I'm not sure he would add to that, but yeah, I think US, yeah, I think given his position, Doge, is going to be quite difficult for him to talk about regulation in the US, right?
He might have difficulty, but you know, maybe there'll be things that the government has said, you can go ahead and say this, you know, at your meeting this Wednesday. So what do you think? Well, I know you don't ever make short term, but that's just not true, Larry. Sometimes you have actually made bets around the earnings deal.
Yeah.
We're now down substantially, helped along by the NASDAQ crash today. So we're down substantially. I think we're right about 400. We'll look in a second here. So do you think, you know, do we tickle 390 again, 380 before the meeting, or And what happens after the meeting? If you were gonna play the game this time, Larry.
I think we're going to see real pressure on the stock before the meeting. And if Elon turns up at the meeting in a positive frame of mind, which I really believe he is going to turn up in, he's in very positive frame of mind right now. I have to think largely because I mean, what's going on with Doge, but definitely what's going on with Tesla and SpaceX. So I think ebullient Elon. I think we'll see the stock go well above 400 again. That's my guess.
All right. Okay. Well, we're aligned on that one. Any thoughts? You probably haven't had time to do a spreadsheet on. You're just going to take AJ's number for
whatever AJ says. I'm aligned. I'm going to give up. I'm going to give up predictions because he does the work. Yeah. I used to do some of the work, but right. I just, I mean, I don't have the inclination. I don't have the investment in the short-term results to warrant doing that kind of level of work. And to be honest, right now, I'm very, very engaged in,
yeah,
in my own portfolio. So.
Well, I had AJ on the show, I think it was Saturday morning, and we went through his analysis. And I'd never done that. I'd never done it the way we did it this time because I wanted to know 4 things that I thought were the most sophisticated things that even really serious investors are not paying attention to. And you and I have talked about some of them, like, what's happening to the money that's coming in from the U.S. government on these battery, the IRA money. Where is that showing up, and how's he evaluating that? Nobody talked about that. And so I had like 4 things like that I thought, okay, let me just see how AJ handles these. Oh my goodness, his sophistication in his approach to dealing with each of the 4 things I brought up was absolutely stellar.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, he does the work.
Yeah.
There's nothing magic about what he does. It's straightforward and financial analysis, but he does it, and he does it in the level of detail that it's required to do in order to come up with really serious answers. And he's been very accurate.
Yeah. So anything else going on Thursday that you're thinking about that's got you on the edge of your seat?
Not really. No, I obviously I'm really keen to know that they continue to expand their margins in energy. AJ thinks they're going to show a decline in margins.
Right, a little bit.
I actually think they're not going to show a decline in margins. I think they're going to show an increase in margins. Hard to disagree with AJ. Hard to fault his analysis, but my analysis shows they're going to show an increase. I could be wrong.
My biggest one, and I think it should be the first question, Larry. We've talked about this a ton, but is really batteries. I keep saying on the show, hoping that somebody will pass it along and get the question answered. I'd like to have Elon give us a 5-minute overview. What's happening with 4680s? What's happening in Reno? What's happening in Berlin? What's going to happen in Shanghai?
Yeah. Well, Drew's not there. The question is, who will step up and actually give us that perspective? And I'm not sure that they'll want to do that, just given the uncertainties about, the IRA and the Trump administration's approach. Given those uncertainties, I think they want to keep that pretty close to their vest.
Yeah. But I'm just saying
and the question is, what is Tesla going to do about iron phosphate? I mean, these are very serious questions, That is a question he may respond to.
Right. Yeah. So again, I don't know whether he would respond to them or not respond to them. I'm just saying, if I had my question that I would really like to hear about, because I think, yes, FSD and Optimus number 2 and number 1 in terms of the future of the company, but everything that we do in the company is batteries. And I just feel like that's, if it's kind of, again, maybe it's the 99% of even the people watching right now, maybe they don't care about what happens with the batteries, but the batteries are kind of core to the future.
Yeah. I think the question really is, will you do another battery day for us soon?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the real question.
That'd be great. All right, let's take a quick look, Larry, and see where things are now. Even though it's early in the day, we did this one early, so we won't have the pre-market yet, but we can at least look. So the Dow ended up 289. So yeah, all the money that went over to the Dow. The NASDAQ ended up down 612. That would be 3% for the day.
Berkshire Hathaway had a great day today.
Berkshire had a great day. The S&P, a lot of people did not have a good day today. S&P went down 1.46%. That is a big drop for the S&P. That's very big drop for the S&P. Tesla was down 2.32, so actually it outperformed because it was not even as much as the NASDAQ. So that's even though it was down substantially, it was, but then you've got Apple was up 3 points, 3%, 3.18%.
But Apple is Apple is not, in my judgment, Apple is not a Magnificent Seven stock. It is a magnificent stock, but I think its heyday is over. I think
Yeah, so and it's been beaten
it's a
up.
cash cow now. It's
And it's
now a
been
cash
beaten down a
cow.
little bit recently, so you could see a reprieve. But again, it might be money moving out of NVIDIA looking for a safe place, and Apple might be a safe place. Amazon up 0.24%, Meta up 1.91% today, but NVIDIA down 17%. Rough day.
Yeah, I think that's probably overdone, but who knows?
Okay, that's what I'm thinking, is that usually people overshoot, but I think this is such a sophisticated question. I think 99, again, 90 something, 90% or more, maybe 95% or more of the people that are invested in NVIDIA don't have a clue what just happened. Am I wrong?
I think you're right, and I think that the reaction on both sides, how much it's been pumped up is overdone, and how much it's being pumped down is probably overdone. But we don't have a way to read the future on NVIDIA. We just don't have a way, because this battle of technique is going to take a while to sort itself out.
All right. And so I think you and I and all the guys on the All In podcast need to do a victory lap, because that's what we've been. I don't know anything about NVIDIA. I admit to being ignorant as heck about NVIDIA, but listening to them, listening to you, I came to the same conclusion. Why did it only have a 30 PE? Too much uncertainty. With Tesla, you can do the spreadsheets. We've all done them.
Yeah.
CERN has done them. You've done them. AJ's done them. How many bots? How much is it likely that they're going to charge for them? How much is it likely they're going to cost? How much is it worth? What's the value? All that can be done. Robotaxi. Kathy Wood has been doing it for how long? Here's how much a ride is. Here's what the other guys are charging. Oh, did you see my video the other day with Robert Scoble?
No, I didn't.
Robert Scoble has been out there interviewing Waymo riders, and he came to realize that Waymo is charging sometimes almost double what Uber is charging. And the reason why, what we've been talking about, people don't want that driver. They're willing to pay more for the Waymo because there's no driver. And there's no tip. There's none of that nonsense. And so this is what you and I've talked about a few times. I think Tesla can charge more for the experience.
The other day, not the other day, the night before last, actually, at the wedding, we were attending a family wedding in Miami, actually Fort Lauderdale, and The cab driver was so bad, was so argumentative and so nasty that I gave him a 1 cent tip.
A 1 cent tip.
I gave him a 1 cent tip and a single star. I mean, he was playing music through the car speaker, and he's playing on his phone a local radio station because he was listening to scores. And we were getting this, and I asked him, "Could you turn that down, please?" He said, "No." He said, "You want me to drop you off? You can take another Uber." This is after we'd waited 20 minutes because there was this gigantic crowd at this huge hotel. So I said, "No, I don't want to take another Uber. I want to go, and I want you to turn." So he turned the radio down enough that he could still hear it. Well, we could still hear it as well. So yeah, if they had a Waymo, I would have taken a Waymo.
Yeah. So this is I thought that was a breakthrough piece of information. I think that Robert Scoble has done it again. You know, he's really onto something on that piece of news. It also should help Waymo in terms of their getting profitable. If they're able to charge that much more, that's going to be a big deal for them until, of course, Robotaxi starts competing. So, Larry, we're finally getting there. The 10-year is down 8.9 today, 4.534.
That's more like it. Yeah,
Yeah. It's not great, but it's way better.
that's more like it.
It's more like it, yes. And the 2-year down 7.3, and 1 month was actually unchanged. So there's very short ones have not come down as fast. And okay, never mind. Okay, I thought I saw something. Anyway, so but anyway, good news on the bonds. I say it should be at 475. That's my expectation. I think I should start playing the bond market, Larry, because I've been at the wrong timing a couple of times, but directionally I've been really good. Not gonna play the bond.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, okay, that's fine. Enjoy yourself.
Enjoy myself.
Don't come crying. Don't come crying.
But we've both been right on oil. Oil is now at 73, down another $1.50 today. Natural gas down 8% today. Finally, way under $4, $3.69. So significantly under $4. So oil, I'm saying 59.
Let that be a lesson to President Biden. Seriously.
Okay, do you know my story on this? Most people don't know this history. It's not that long ago. President Trump, in his first term in office, went on the television, and when the price of oil was high in the early part of his administration, he says, "There's nothing I can do about it. It's an international traded commodity. What am I supposed to do about it? There's nothing I can do." 2 weeks later, he went on television. He said, "I'm going to take oil out of the reserve. I'm going to do," he had like 3 things that he said he was going to do. The bully pulpit, boom, just like that. Oil prices crashed, never came back. So he's done the same thing already, in the first few days. So I think we're headed for $59, $60 a barrel. I think that would be the agreed upon price among all the players that will help.
Except Russia.
Huh?
Except Russia.
Except Russia. They won't like it at all. But
it would be so good to bring that price down, to really bully that price down and to pump the gas. I mean, if he were to open, really open the reserves, which he's done, I mean, then the traders are going to look at that and say, whoa, look what's coming.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think is going to happen with Canada? On another subject completely. This is so fun. I'm enjoying the first week of the.
Well, I enjoyed what happened with Colombia.
That was good.
I've been so occupied these last couple of days, but I did take time to
follow.
to pull AOC's tail. AOC.
Yeah.
She posted yesterday, "Oh, Trump, you're so stupid. The price of coffee is going to go through the roof. Do you think Colombia is going to give us coffee?" I quoted the numbers back to her. What an unintelligent post she made, And then, of course, the next day, Colombia just, retreats 100% because they can't afford to fight the US. They just can't.
No, they can't. No, and especially not the month before Valentine's Day. Their economies after cocaine, I think it's flowers, and it's one time a year. All right, so we got gold down 35 today. Still really high, 27.45. Silver following it, trying to go under $30 again. $30.50.
That's
Copper,
directionally good. That's a good direction, but I mean, yeah.
yeah. Copper down a buck eight. I mean, sorry, 1.83%. Still over $4, but it's $4.24. And Bitcoin down 3,603 at 101.4. It's a weird thing with Bitcoin right now because you don't know whether it should be going up because the Trump administration says they're going to do all good. David Sachs is there in charge of all that.
But we've seen the upside because it went from the 60, 80 range right up to the 100 range, based upon the success of the election. I think it's got a while to consolidate until we see real direction.
And see what actually David Sachs gets through.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the story. I always love to go back one more time and see if Tesla after hours has moved. And so let's see. We've got Tesla in the after hours up 0.34%. So, up a buck or two. A buck and change. Larry, parting wisdom for the crowd?
Yeah, I would say, we have a saying in South Africa called hou vas. Hou vas. It means hold fast.
Hold fast. Yeah. This week, I think that saying would be an important saying. I think the roller coaster will be interesting for the rest of the week. Oh my goodness.
Hold fast.
Okay. Larry, thanks as always for coming on and helping us out. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.